Wherever you may be, however you may be listening, thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of the Cardinals On SI podcast with Richie Bradshaw. I am Donnie Druin, joined every week. My main squeeze, Richie, who does Locked on Sun Devils, in case nobody here knows that. So go ahead and follow and subscribe to them on YouTube. Got the Big 12 Championship now under wraps.
Richard, what's up, dude?
Peach Bowl is up next and already in the chat. Richard, what's up? Forks up, everybody. We'll get right to the chase, my man. A reality check was handed to the Arizona Cardinals on Sunday in 30-18 fashion by the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah.
We talked last week about how it felt like a must-win game. It felt like a playoff atmosphere being there. I'm sure it felt that way for a lot of other people too. The different win percentages of whether you won or you lost, depending on your outcome moving forward for both the division and just the postseason in general. It swayed a lot. And Richie, the Cardinals moved down the field on the first drive. They found that deep ball to Michael Wilson, and you're thinking, okay, like they showed up. Like we haven't seen them really show up the past 2 weeks after they came out of the bye week, but they understand what's at stake. They're going to be able to move forward with it. They're showing up. And then aside from one drive in the third quarter, Richie, they completely fell on their face.
It was just about the worst performance they could have put together when they needed to get this figured out. It was a really strong start to the game, Donnie. And watching that start to the game, I felt confidence of like, okay, cool. This is what we were hoping to see, was that this Cardinals team was going to come out. They were going to say, hey, you're not going to punch us in the face anymore. We are getting it together. We are going to turn the ship around, and we're going to head back to the playoff aspirations that we drummed up for ourselves about a month ago. And then it got away from them. And it was a tough watch. It was an even tougher pill to swallow to see the Cardinals lose this game. And at this point, it does feel like you don't say the season's over. Your odds of getting into the playoffs have just so drastically shrunk. Do you still have that website that you brought up?
Yeah.
I think it was on Friday.
Yeah, I was actually going to go through that here in a little bit whenever we got a little bit deeper into the playoff talks. Richard does have a question for us. What do you guys think if Kyler goes 2-2 at the end of the year? Is it a failure? Should Kyler still be the quarterback? I think it all looks at the kind of perspective you want to take from it. At the beginning of the season, 2 more wins will give them 8, right? They're 6-7.
Yep.
2 more wins will give them 8 wins on the year. I mean, you more than doubled your win total from last year. I think putting that in a vacuum, you absolutely do take that.
Right.
But all things considered, with how you started the season 6-4, top the NFC West going into the bye week, for you to have dropped 3 straight, that's already pretty disappointing. I think 2-2 would be okay with me. Obviously you'd rather go 3-1 or 4-0, but 2-2 seems fine with me. To answer the second part of third part of that question, should Kyler still be the quarterback?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Kyler did not play his best game. I do want to say that there's been times where he's looked great. There's been times where he's not looked great. But what I do want to point out is that everybody in that building, from the coaching staff to the locker room to the front office, absolutely believes in Kyler Murray. And I do not think they would entertain any other person playing quarterback for them in 2025. But I do, shout out to K. I do want to reel this in, though. And good friend of the podcast, Alex Clancy, also Locked on Cardinals, by the way, Richie, said there's going to be conversations now. There are going to be some maybe awkward or tough conversations if the Cardinals continue finishing the year like they currently on, because life is great whenever you're 6-4. Kyler was talking about in MVP conversations, right? If you finish the year on your current trajectory that you're on right now, you got to have some talks. You got to look at some things, and they're not going to get rid of Kyler, but there's got to be some tough conversations because this can't happen again in 2025.
What are these tough conversations that he's alluding to here?
Just more so like, hey, like, You're a top paid quarterback in the National Football League. You're going into year 7. What needs to change? Do you not like Drew Petzing? Do you not like certain aspects about the offense? Like, is there anything we need to do? Do we need to get you another weapon? Like, not necessarily geared towards Kyler, but in terms of the overall offensive picture moving forward, something's got to change.
Got it. Okay. I would agree that there's a lot of conversations that they need to start having about the sudden inefficiency of this offense. Before the bye week, it was a safe offense, almost boring at times, but it was a machine. And it got points and it won you football games. They were 6-3 at the bye, or 6-4 at the bye. Sorry. Now they're 6-7. You've dropped 3 straight. I texted you this earlier, Donnie. I'll put this out here too. The rest of your schedule, look, there's 4 more games and there's 4 more teams. And those 4 teams are not bad enough that if the Cardinals were to continue playing at the way they are playing right now, that they'll find a win. Like, the Cardinals are playing worse football than the Panthers are right now. They're playing worse football than the Patriots are right now. Take that for what it is. But, I mean, they got to get it together, or they have a very serious chance of losing out there, which, congrats, you're going to get that better draft pick. But talk about a tale of 2 halves of the season, and talk about just the roller coaster that we've gone on this year, Donnie. We came into this season and we said, 6 to 8 wins was a successful year. Okay, well, they're already at 6 wins at the bye week. Wow, okay, they're blowing our expectations. Like, are they going to be a playoff team? Blah, blah, blah. Were we wrong about this team? 3 weeks after the bye, they're 0-3, and they're bad losses, and you're like, well, were we right about this team, or were we wrong a second time? I don't really know where we are gauging this team right now, because at the end of the year, at the end of the football season, I should say, no matter what happens with the Cardinals, you improved your win total. You showed a lot of competitiveness. You were a playoff team at one point, but there's the problem. What happened? Why did everything just completely go to the wayside? I feel like I've watched 2 completely different Arizona Cardinal teams this year, and that's why this is going to be such a weird year to evaluate. If you had been a consistent team all season long and you end the year, let's say they split 2-2, right? They end the year 8-9, but they had been consistently the same team all year long of not a playoff team, but a team showing improvement. This is a successful season. But if they end the year 8-9 now, is it still a successful season?
I think so.
Did everything change? I feel like in a broader scope it is, but that's also one of those where you have to look at the season from a week-to-week basis at that point in time.
I think it could be a successful season and disappointing at the same time. Perfect example. I'm a success to my mom, but I'm also a disappointment. I think it's very possible to be both, right? I do want to highlight. Yeah, exactly. I do want to highlight Big E coming with the heat. Thanks for checking this out, brother. Marvin needs to get less playing time. Start using other receivers. Marvin is not even number 3 receiver. He sucks. He's a bust.
So I won't say he sucks. He's a bust. I am interested in that first part, not in the sense of punishing Marv, but kind of in the sense of hey man, if we can't get the consistency out of you, and it might not be a Marv problem, but I mean, right now this is a team that's trying to find answers, right? Mm-hmm. So if this is something that the coaching staff would agree with Big E on here, that Marvin is not earning his playing time, you might start to go to different avenues and see what works and what doesn't work. And that could light a fire under a guy. I mean, look at Bryce Young, former number 1 overall pick. He was benched earlier in the year because he was playing so bad. He comes back after, I think he missed 3 games on the bench or something like that, and he's playing good football again. Sometimes it's just a matter of having a coach get up on you to be able to kind of get you to turn everything around. Now, again, I don't know if this is a Marv problem per se, but if the organization were to see there is a Marv problem, I don't necessarily mind you trying to play around, and your season's on the line right now, Donnie. So
yeah, I
don't think Marv's a problem, but I hear
problem.
Right. No, and I'm not sure what exactly.
So my thing is, if we know Marvin Harrison Jr. Needs more reps with Kyler, needs more playing time, because reps are gold. You hear that all the time in the NFL, and
Sure.
for a good reason. Reps are gold. If Marvin Harrison Jr. needs to get better at playing football, not playing football and reducing his snap counts is not a productive way to get there. Like, do you follow my train of thought?
Yes, no, I totally do. And that's not necessarily what I'm trying to say, but it definitely sounds like that's what I'm trying to convey. I'm on the same page as you. I'm having a difficult time trying to articulate what I mean.
Now, I would be all in favor of trying to throw a couple curveballs and maybe mix it up. Um, and, we kind of had this conversation last week where we talked about maybe Michael Wilson, Marvin Harrison Jr. switching roles and maybe kind of just flip flopping their roles in the offense.
Mhm.
Michael Wilson looked pretty good on Sunday, man. That touchdown was a pretty nice one. So I don't think that would be the worst thing in the world. Richard says, because Drew has not adjusted the game plan as philosophy of JG. Shout out Kyler Bird, man. Top of
Dude,
the
he's like one of the
iceberg.
worst people
Okay.
on Cardinals Twitter, depending on who you
Anyways,
ask.
jeez, man.
There's a whole account dedicated to hating him. That's all I'm saying. But
Is
no,
there
yeah, put
really?
him top of the iceberg for sure. Donnie Drew's not even on the iceberg. What does that tell you? That's
Me
how
not.
great Kyler is.
And I'm swimming with the fishes, man. But with the amount of available cap for a big offseason, the third Monty drafter has to be tangible results with a then 7-year vet at quarterback. See that, and that's the entire thing is at what point, and not that Kyler does not take accountability, because he does and he will continue to do so. But it's like, okay, man, like, first there was the injury, and then there was the first year of his play in Drew Petzing's scheme. He had the second half of 2023 to rebound. It's like, okay, here we go. You're finally going to be able to be unlocked in an offense that's completely different than Cliff Kingsbury's. The first half of the season, he looked great. So far, 3 weeks out of the bye week, he's turned the ball over 5 times, and that's unfortunately just not a winning stat. Back to the Marv Biggie says Marvin doesn't help out Murray when he had Hopkins.
You're
We
also
we we need
in
to stop
fairness,
comparing a veteran all-pro receiver who is borderline Hall of Fame worthy to a rookie receiver. Can
right?
can we can we pump the brakes just a little bit, please?
No, and it's difficult to not want to see that immediate success when you hype a kid up to be the next DeAndre Hopkins, the next Calvin Johnson, whatever.
Sure.
So that is also partly on the blame of everyone who hyped up Marvin Harrison Jr.
Like
See,
Aaron
there you
says.
go. But that's who Marvin Harrison Jr. is supposed to be. Exactly. And that's a huge narrative that has been pushed by fans, by media, by players, and everyone. So it's not a wonder why people are getting frustrated when you see Marvin Harrison Jr. just isn't doing what he is supposed to do. In theory, we have hyped him up so much. I'm so incredibly guilty of this with hundreds of other people. He is generational. I will stand firm on that. But asking him to put up a Puka Nacua, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson rookie season is never a fair expectation for Calvin Johnson or Larry Fitzgerald to do it. So that was definitely a failure on a lot of our parts. But
So what I'll concede is
the solution isn't also just taking away the opportunities from Marvin Harrison Jr. either.
yeah, like we need to stop calling him a bust. Like, he hasn't even completed his rookie season. He got no preseason time with Kyler,
Take
and I
steps
understand
away from the edge, my friends. It's okay.
yeah, like I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be fine. We had the same conversation last week. I think he's going to be fine. I will concede there are times where maybe number 4 overall pick should come down with that ball. Maybe a number 4 overall pick should be able to do X, Y, or Z. Counterpoint though, like, you can't expect him to put up these gaudy numbers in an offense that just does not favor receivers. Like, this is not a Cliff Kingsbury offense. This is not a Sean McVay offense. This is
Right.
not a Zach Taylor offense. This is a Drew Petzing offense, and that could be a blessing, that could be a curse. But the overall reality is that this team will never just use crazy big receivers in a way like other superstars around the National Football League do. This is a predominantly run first offense.
Right.
And that's that's how it is, man.
There he is. You son of a... I want you to know it is clean and ready. And I flipped a coin before I came on the show. I was like, do I commit to wearing the same shirt over and over and over or not? Anyways, Brian, good to see you. Let's see. He just runs lazy routes, so many unintentional movements when running. That's been the biggest disappointment for me. He'll understand leverage and coverage as time comes, but the explosion lacks. Yeah, it's a lot of technical refinement, and so much is different from even playing Big Ten football at Ohio State. It's still a very different game once you get to the next level. I think people have forgotten there was a point in time when you talked about the most difficult positions to translate from college to pro. Receiver was often considered like the second, maybe third most difficult, only behind quarterback and corner. Like, receiver is a very different position to go to the next level at, because in college you're used to beating players with your physical gifts. I mean, to sidetrack here just for a second, since we're kind of talking about the Marvin Harrison Jr. progression, think about for ASU, like Jalen Strong, N'Keal Harry. How did they dominate in college? They were big guys who used their size to be able to create separation. But you get to the pros, and size isn't how you create separation. So for a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr., who has all the tools and trinkets and everything, he might not have figured out what his cup of tea is and what his preferred repertoire is for how he's going to create separation, how he's going to break off of his routes, how he's going to do A, B, C, D, E, so on and so forth. It's just a process, but that's part of what goes into receiver is such a hard position to translate from college to rookie and have immediate success. We're used to seeing it because it's such a path happy football league right now that we have had 3 receivers in the last 10 years that have eclipsed 1,400 receiving yards as rookies.
So what I will say about where a lot of the frustration, I guess, understandably comes into play is I don't think that narrative is just alive and well anymore whenever it comes to receivers coming and struggling in the National Football League, because Richie, it seems like every year there's numerous rookie receivers who just burst on the scene, put up crazy numbers, and next thing you know, they're the next like big sensation. And when you look at a guy with the pedigree of Marvin Harrison Jr., with all of the hype that came with him, like we talked about people being guilty of doing X, Y, or Z. I said he was going to help transform this offense overnight. Like the moment he landed in Arizona, he was going to help make the Cardinals offense better. There's so many different other variables, factors, whatever you want to put into it. At the end of the day, like he's just, I feel like it's understandable to be very frustrated with, I don't even want to say Marv, but just like maybe like his role in the offense or how he's being used. But also, man, like we gotta have patience. Like to call him a bust, to label him as these different things, it's way too early for that. Way too early.
At least give him another game. One more game.
More than that, bro. What are we doing?
Dude,
what are we doing?
You want the rest of the year? Holy cow, dude. You're pushing the envelope right now.
I do want to get back. I do want to get back to Richard's question. It's kind of get better with a different play caller.
Yes. Yes. That thing isn't it. That thing
so
isn't
like
it.
It's. I think you can agree that Petzing may or may not be it, but the problem the last 3 weeks has been Kyler's turnovers. That's been the problem, and we can paint Drew Petzing to be whatever we want to, and sometimes more than others, probably deservedly so. Petzing's not pulling the trigger on these interceptions that Kyler Murray is.
I don't disagree. Petzing's offense is also what really keeps everything so restricted, and you don't see the creativity and a team that is wanting to push the ball down the field. They're not doing that this year. Something that I was talking with my dad about last night is like, how is Kyler Murray one of the most athletically gifted players in sports, any sport, not just football, at any level? He's unbelievably talented, right? And yet we don't see him playing to the potential that we saw him playing with certain other coaches and everything like that. And I feel like a lot of people forget how important coaching is for players.
Yep.
So it's frustrating, and I'm not trying to be like the excuse maker for Kyler or anything. Kyler does have to have some accountability at some point, but I'm still waiting for the day that the Cardinals realize, like, hey, if we got him a coach, we could see something figured out. Like, I'll say this, and I know I'm right, but I know that there's going to be some way it could be misconstrued. So I need you to stick with me, and I need everyone else to kind of hang on for a second.
Can you acknowledge the bottom comments? I can take it off the screen, please.
I don't want to, because I saw a C and an S there, and I know what it is.
Oh, yeah.
Continue. I know what it is. I'm not having a good time.
Go ahead.
Am I smiling? I hope I'm smiling right now.
Continue.
So I'm going to say this, and I know it's going to be misconstrued, but you have a quarterback in Kyler Murray that is athletically gifted of a specimen as a Lamar Jackson, as a Patrick Mahomes, as a Josh Allen, in terms of just these gifts and these traits that you do not find with other guys.
Sure.
And the way that these other teams have been able to find a success with these Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen types is by getting them coaches who understand how to get the most out of them. We have not seen a coach find a way to get the most out of Kyler Murray. And that's one of the things that has perennially frustrated me with this organization. And I've heard from people that have said, you know what, I'd be fine with Kyler leaving and then him going on to have a career year somewhere else. And it's like, you say that, but I promise you that if that happened, if Kyler did leave Arizona and he goes to another team and turns into a like perennial Pro Bowler, like he's got a couple Pro Bowls here with the Cardinals. I'm talking like every single year he's like top 3, top 4 finisher in votings and everything like that. You would be very angry. And you'd be angry at Kyler, and you're pointing the finger at you're pointing the gun in the wrong direction. Like, I sound like a Kyler apologist a lot. I totally will own that. But the criticism that has been handed to him recently, I feel has a lot more to do with coaching than anything else. That's just my thing. Can he be an offensive coordinator? Like, I can't get him as a head coach, and I don't know that he would even want to leave college to be a coordinator at that point. But to build off of that comment, Richard, you need a coach who understands the way that Kyler Murray works, the way that Lincoln Riley was able to make him work.
Yeah,
that would be my point.
That would be the hope. That would be the hope. Would love to know what the game plan would be if McVay or Shanahan were to play caller. So would a lot of other people. But the issue is that you can't get either. And the disciples of McVay or Shanahan are pretty hard to find and get to. And some of them don't even pan out like their predecessors should.
Well, you got to get them fast. I mean, Mike McDaniel was... Dude, how long had he even been a coordinator at that point for Shanahan? Like, I know he'd been in the league for a minute, but... I mean, it feels like the moment those guys for the Shanahan and the McVay trees, the moment you see like, hey, they're going to be an offensive coordinator this year, if there's any kind of success, you got to grab them. Yep. Like they fly off trees. Yep.
We do have ASU football.
We do have ASU football.
We do have ASU football.
It's pretty exciting. We don't have a Heisman Trophy winner, but got ASU football.
It's true. That's true. $55 million cap hit next year makes reality say then Kyler is the guy next year. Go all in next year or 75%. Leave no excuses. I know Monty got a lot of flack this past offseason for not wanting to spend, not doing anything flashy or big. I'll tell you right now, and if you've been a listener of our podcast or show, whatever you want to call it, if you read my work at SO.com/NFL/Cardinals, I spoke with somebody very high up in the Cardinals front office, very high up. who said that they just were not expecting the team to be fully competitive this year, not like playoff competitive.
Yeah, they were expecting
So
this, which is
yeah,
what we were all expecting. But
so
that's what feeds into the frustration that the fan base has now.
but the game plan was never, hey, let's go be Steve Keim. Let's try to fool ourselves that, you know what, maybe we can go get a couple of vets. Maybe we can go get Christian Wilkins for a bunch of money, and that'll just transform everything. We have the benefit of hindsight now, Richie. Do you think a Christian Wilkins would have been a night and day difference maker? Do you think adding a guy like Hassan Reddick at the trade deadline would see this team perform any better? I don't think so.
No, don't bring up Christian Wilkins, though, man, because I'm still angry to this day that they didn't throw money at him.
The Cardinals?
Yes.
Why?
Because he's elite. I know he's been banged up with the Raiders this year, but you're also talking about putting him in a new situation, and maybe he's not banged up with the Cardinals. I don't know. Like, I understand the Raiders haven't gotten the return on investment this year, but this is also his first year there. And based off of what we have seen previously in his success down in South Beach, he's one of the 5 best defensive tackles in football. This is a massive, massive need for this Cardinals defensive line.
I would agree, man. But sinking all of that money into one player,
to an all-pro caliber player, not ahead of this
year. Absolutely not. No.
But why miss a chance to get a cornerstone? How often is a 25,
because that
26
didn't fit the timeline? That did not fit the timeline.
So
the Cardinals were not.
So you'd rather follow a timeline instead of get yourself an all-pro talent when it's sitting right in front of you.
Congrats, you're Steve Keim. Congrats.
No, hold on a minute. There's no alcohol in this.
Okay.
I am not Steve Keim. Second of all, it's talent building. It's roster building. It's not like the Cardinals had $25 million in cap space and they spent 23 of it on Christian Wilkins. They had more than enough money to pull in the biggest fish in free agency and then still be competitive this offseason. There were several big-name players last year, none who had the name like Christian Wilkins, though. We can all agree to that. There were some good moves that went around. Christian Wilkins, shame on Miami. He never should have left. Return on investment, whatever. He's been banged up. He hasn't been good. I get it. It's 1 year. Let's revisit it in 2 years, right? The 3 years that you typically give these moves to grade out. We'll revisit in 3 years whether or not it was a mistake that they did not go for Christian Wilkins.
The biggest thing, at least through the first 2 years of Monty Austin being the Cardinals general manager, it was always going to be through the draft. It'll continue to be through the draft.
And it should be.
Is how they add those major pieces.
Yes.
That being said, I think you look at what they've done this year, regardless of how they finish the season, you have some of the highest cap space in the NFL going into the 2025 offseason. I think this year you do see some money being thrown, or like money being thrown, and not like Justin Jones, Sean Murphy bunting money. I'm talking like difference maker. Like we'll hopefully
knock on. Who's the difference maker on the market?
I think you got to lock down Budda Baker. I do not think you let him test free agency.
I agree. He can't leave. At this point, he needs his name in the Ring of Honor. So
I would agree. I mean, the two guys you wanted at the trade deadline, Hassan Reddick and Azeez Ojulari, they're both free agents.
Right.
You can go sign them now without having to give up draft capital.
Right. Which that is a win. That is a win. And the Giants are not bringing back Azeez with the direction the Jets are going. They are not bringing back Hassan.
So, I mean, you go get a pass rush, you go get a corner. I don't know. I don't know. There's going to be a handful of guys. I'm sure they're going to be surprise cuts heading into free agency that maybe nobody thought they would have been available. And then,
so once again, you're a bargain bin shopping. That's what you're telling me.
No. I'm saying there's going to be premier players available. There always is. Okay. Some classes are better than others in free agency, but there's always going to be a handful of premier guys. Okay. You've established that you can be a winning organization. The potential is there. You have the cap space. You have the direction moving forward. You have the quarterback contract is already in the bin. Now you can make a push. Now you can sell it. Now you can say, you know what? We went through the first year, okay, whatever, 3-14. We went through the second year. We took a step forward. Now's the time to put a foot on the gas, and that's exactly what they're going to do in the offseason. Mark my words.
I hope so, and I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
Marcus Lawrence, $18 million.
This is why you're at the bottom of the iceberg.
I hope that. Kyler's at the top of the iceberg, man.
You must have been looking at it upside down.
Hassan Reddick didn't have any sacks the first, 12 weeks of the season? Just saying.
Dude, wasn't there some kind of like crazy correlation with that too? Like it felt like he almost wasn't even seeing the field. He's just burning money. Dude, it was crazy.
Burning money, man. That being said, Reddick has not looked great, but I didn't expect him to look great after that whole that whole situation was just mind-numbing to me for numerous reasons. Final 4 weeks of the season, though. Agent. Well, he did, but too little, too late on that. Final 4 weeks of the Cardinals season. They got the New England Patriots again at home this week before going on the road to the Carolina Panthers and then the Los Angeles Rams before coming back week 18 to host the San Francisco 49ers. Rich, you had brought this up a little bit earlier of how maybe teams like the Patriots and the Panthers maybe shouldn't be counted as an automatic win.
Nope, absolutely should not.
Preach on.
These are teams that are playing well above their talent level, and especially the Panthers. That is a team that the Cardinals absolutely cannot overlook, especially knowing that you are going to Charlotte for that game. Bryce Young is playing very good football right now. They were this close to who'd they just play this weekend, and they almost got the upset. Philly. Eagles. Yeah. Yep. They were a drop pass away from being that much closer to being able to pull off a comeback over arguably the best team in football. They played the Chiefs really close the week before that. They lost in overtime to Tampa. They've lost 3 straight since their bye week, but they've also very easily could have won 3 games over 3 playoff teams. Carolina's playing really, really good football right now.
Hit me up, Corey. Donut on me, and I'll make it on that.
Dude, he doesn't even get me donuts. Good for you, Corey. Do you want his address?
Anyways, man.
You gotta go, or I'm gonna keep going.
No, okay. Reddick is older, Aziz is younger. Which one would you try and get? And see that's kind of the not the paradox, but how much
evaluating.
Well, how much money are you going to give a pass rusher who is 30 years old and really hasn't played a bunch of football in the past 12 months?
And then how much are you willing to outbid other teams for a young pass rusher with upside to be a full-time starter, but has been mainly a rotational guy his whole career?
And if you're the Cardinals, you're going into step 3 of the plan timeline, whatever you want to call it. Are you still banking on upside? Do you want to go get established guys? Like what's the route you want to take?
Let's ask Marvin Harrison Jr.
Oh. Anyways, man, so 4 weeks to end the regular season. It's going to be something, for sure, something. Richie alluded to this earlier, but if you see on the screen, do I need to make it bigger?
There it is. It looks good for me.
Yeah, I'll make it.
Chat, how are we looking? Type of 1 if it looks good.
So can we stop? Oh, my God, dude. Anyways, your Arizona Cardinals have a 5% chance of making of winning the division. Excuse me, which is basically making the postseason at this point with how strong the rest of the NFC is. I want to highlight this. Look, if they win their next 2 games, Patriots, Panthers, which aren't even necessarily gimme games anymore, I think they're the better team in both scenarios, but it jumps to 8%. And then if the Seahawks lose both to the Packers and then both to the Vikings, what did I do? What am I doing? That still only jumps to 16%.
Dude, you're trying to get their hopes up. Like, oh, well, wait till this happens.
No, I'm just saying, it's.
Oh, wait.
That's why Sunday was such a big game, man. Such a big game. And then if they win out and Seattle drops the Vikings and Packers game, maybe you get some hope. I don't know, but pending the Seahawks and then the Vikings and Packers games, just winning out and not taking anything else into account, you're still sitting at about 37% chance to win the division. It's a trek, man. You got to win out, and then you have to have some help along the way for your playoff chances to be anything close to relevant.
Oh man, you know how Richie feels about having to rely on other teams to lose games for you. Not in a good
How does
spot.
Richie feel about it?
I feel like you're not in a good spot.
Yeah.
Like you need to worry about your games. You shouldn't be having to sit on a couch and root for other teams. So in certain instances, that makes sense. Like if you're trying to get the second seed instead of the third seed kind of thing, that would make sense. But less than 1%, what?
If you lose to the Rams in week 17.
Gotcha. Well, here's what I'll tell you, Cardinal fans. Hear me out, Masonians. Okay. ASU had a 0.5% chance of winning the conference championship at the start of the year. I'm telling you, there's a chance.
Tell me there's a chance. Okay.
Step away from Tempe Town Lake. We're going to be fine.
Would BJ want his brother here competing for his job? I think BJ would love to have his brother. I wouldn't even say is like competing for his job. I think BJ Ojulari fully healthy. I think
they would love the idea of lining up across from each other.
Yeah, man. And I know you just paid Zaven Collins, but Zaven hasn't really shown a whole bunch in the pass rushing department, at least. Corey says, just focus on us winning out, returns some good faith, especially if the Rams and the Niners aren't in rest mode. It's a very good point. And then Brian said, look at Washington, Seattle schedules. I posted it. I will have to go do that after we are done recording. Man, we'll end the show on this topic. They got a reality check, man. They did. I feel not foolish, but I was very hopeful that this Cardinals team could put together a very, very strong end to the second half of the season.
They roped us in.
It feels like just yesterday, man. Like I was sitting in the press conference room after they beat the New York Jets, and Jonathan Gannon said the season starts now. Like nothing else that happened before. The real season starts right here, right now. And I'm like, okay, cool. They're locked in. They're focused. I don't know what happened at the bye week. I don't know what voodoo other people performed to get them to lose 3 in a row.
Same ones who work for the Chiefs games, man.
Yeah, maybe, man. Maybe the Cardinals need to get a little close to like T Swift. Maybe see what like Pat Mahomes and the State Farm commercials are up to nowadays. Like something. Do anything.
I thought you were just referring to like find like a celebrity crush for like Kyler to find. Does he have a girlfriend?
I don't know.
Okay, well, I mean, him and Sabrina Carpenter probably weigh the same amount. That feels like a good starting point for a conversation.
Richie Bradshaw.
I'm fired. Okay. I just got fired, guys.
Okay, man. All right, man. I think Brian's got it right here in the comments best. If they don't play desperate now, huge red flags. I think if you're a Cardinals fan,
with your hair on fire,
you just want to see him compete. Like at this point, like, okay, postseason, maybe not. You just want to see him win. Like you want to instill some hope. It's like, hey, you know what? Like 3-game losing streak, that's behind us. This is not who we are. Like that was just a blip in the radar. Moving forward into 2025, we'll be reloaded. We'll be better than what we were this year. Like we will give you something to look forward to. And you know what, man? There were a lot of people that had their season ticket prices raised ahead of 2025 under the assumption that the Cardinals would be better. They better hope. The Cardinals put a good product on the field moving into next year, or else there's going to be a lot of pissed off people at State Farm Stadium.
You may beat us on the field, but we'll beat you in the parking lot, buddy.
Stop giving me hope. See, this is like, it's the hope that kills you. Right.
It's the life of being an Arizona sports fan.
Yeah, man.
It's not for the weary. It is for us, the miserable, the ones who were born here.
Do you have anything else before we get out of here, man?
I don't think so. So we're in the final stretch, last quarter of the season.
Yep.
This is a big time for, I almost said for ASU, for the Cardinals to get it together. Playoffs aren't out of the picture. They got a lot of stuff to work on. And, Arizona Cardinals on SI's got a lot of stuff that's coming your way too. So hit that subscribe button and follow Donnie and follow me, and we'll get through it together. Do some trash talk, do some group therapy like we did tonight. We got this.
To end the episode, I think I'll just leave it to the late great Danny Green, who said, "They are who we thought they were." So, all of that being said, we did leave them off the hook. Follow Richie Bradshaw on Twitter at RichieBrads36. Follow me on Twitter at Donnie Drew. And thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of the Cardinals On SI podcast. Donate money for Richie's laundry fund. We'll get that going here shortly. We will be back a little bit later in the week to talk Cardinals Patriots. But until then, stay safe.